Good evening. Call to order this meeting of the Town of Wendell Board of Commissioners. Welcome all of y'all for being here tonight. We've got a nice full house. That's always very nice. Our Pledge of Allegiance tonight is going to be led by Police Chief Bill Carter. He's joining us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Chief. Our invocation tonight is brought to us by the Wendell Council of Churches, and we have tonight with us Pastor Barry McFarland. Good evening, sir. Thank you for being here with us.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm Barry McFarland, pastor of New Hope Missionary Baptist Church.
Could you get to the microphone so they can hear you? Thank you.
Okay. I'm Pastor Barry McFarland, pastor of New Hope Missionary Baptist Church, 3039 Wendell Road. Good evening to everybody. Let us pray. O Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on us, for we are sinners. We thank you right now for the opportunity and privilege of prayer. We ask you right now, we invite your presence into this place, Lord, for we realize, Lord, that we can't do anything without you, Lord, for you are sovereign God who has all power in heaven as well in earth. We ask you right now to bless this Board of Commissioners, Lord, for they are servant leaders to the town of Wendell. We are asking you right now, Lord, to lead them and guide them, that they will work fervently to the betterment of this community. We ask you right now, Lord, that everyone in this building realize the power and authority that only our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, have over all earth. We ask you right now to bless us, keep us, comfort us, and guide us throughout this time. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you again for being with us tonight. Is there any adjustment to the agenda? Not? Do I have a... Yes, sir.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Have a motion.
A little quick.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment. We have one person signed up for public comment tonight. Brian Staples. Good evening. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Good evening, members of the board. I want to make one quick comment on an item that you have later on in your agenda. Item number 9, discussion of recommending a citizen to serve on the Wake County Fire Commission. Currently, the town of Wendell appointee to the Fire Commission is Mr. Lucius Jones, and our board has met and we've discussed as the Wendell Fire Department Board of Directors. They are unanimous in asking that the town continue with Lucius's appointment to this board. As you know, we're in the process of, Wake County's in the process of purchasing land and then building the Wendell Falls Public Safety Center. The land hasn't closed yet, but we're on time as far as the timeline, and everything's moving forward. But without the leadership of Mr. Jones and retired Fire Chief Tom Vaughn, we wouldn't be discussing this at this time, because all the way back in 2008, when the economy took the downturn, Wake County was looking to save money, and one project that continually came up every year in the capital improvement projects was the Wendell Falls Station. They didn't see the need to budget money for a non-existent subdivision at the time, but each year Mr. Jones and Chief Vaughn kept that money in there in the budget, and it's moved to the process now where hopefully by November of this month the county will purchase the land, and then we'll be able to start construction in sometime after July 1st, 2018. So just from the fire department and our board of directors, we would like to make that recommendation and hope that board will follow and keep Mr. Jones in that spot while this project is ongoing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I need to make an amendment to the motion, or to the consent agenda.
Okay.
Last month's minutes indicate that I stated I don't often visit the town park, and I think it is supposed to say I often visit the town park.
I often, not I don't often. Okay. So we have a motion to approve as directed. All in favor to approve the minutes and the consent agenda along with the minutes as they've been amended?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was convoluted, I'm sorry. All right. Item number 4 is a presentation by Frank Doherty on the birdwatching program at the Wendell Community Park.
We'll do all right. I'm Frank Doherty. I'm a retired wildlife biologist. Moved to Wendell about 20 months ago. And
Can you, excuse me, can you get in front of the podium so that you'll be
Yeah,
on the
we'll-
camera and
Yeah.
the microphone?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll start over
We want
again.
everybody at home to be able to see you.
Okay, I'm Frank Doherty. I'm a retired wildlife biologist. We moved to Wendell about 20 months ago. And I had been working with the parks, both the county and state parks in North Raleigh. And when we moved here, it was too far to drive, and the traffic's just crazy in North Raleigh, so we don't want to go back there. And looking for some place to begin birding, and I'll explain why birding's catching on, I found what my wondering eyes appeared was the Wendell Park. And it's a unique park. If you've not been there, take time to go visit the park. It has a very distinct and diverse habitat, which draws in a lot of different animals, and we'll talk primarily about birds this evening. I will use my poster. Birding is very popular. Over 25% of the American population does some sort of birding. They could be as simple as putting feeders out or actually doing bird walks. It's the fastest growing non-competitive outdoor activity in the world today. It's finally surpassed gardening, which was very popular for a long time, but everybody wanted gardens and organic gardens, but birding has become more popular. It's even become competitive. There are some times when it is competitive. About 85 million people in the United States do some sort of birding. In Europe, it's even higher. It's 30% of the people in the UK and in Europe, so it's very high. It's unique in that some of the folks that we've had visiting for the bird walks, one's from Denmark and one's from Zimbabwe. So we have some international visitors coming to our bird walks here in Wendell. We started the program last October. The first couple months were pretty slim, and then we got a very nice article in the N&O, and it came out in the East Wake N&O, almost a quarter of a page about the park and what we were doing there. And one thing I really need to talk about early on is Jeff's staff. Jeff and his staff has been awesome in the support of the programs we're trying to run there. Christy has done some brochures for us that are just marvelous, and Phil Smith has really helped us out in developing new trails. So we started last December was the first time that we really had a walk that was of any consequence. And each December there's what's called the Christmas bird count, and it's a worldwide count. And so we did one this year. We had 6 people show up for it, and it was cold and miserable. Some of the folks that were on that walk are here this evening, so they can attest to that. And we didn't do great. We had about 20 species, and you know, it was kind of a fun time, but it was our first real walk. So from there, what happened was we started getting some publicity from the buzz, and then the city has kind of caught on with some things. But Audubon, the Audubon group, and I'm not a member of Audubon, but the Audubon group heard about us, and so they began to participate in our bird walks. They have a thing called Meetup, and the Meetup, you can join any group to do Meetup, but there are specific Meetup groups just for bird watching. And we're on Meetup now, and what that does for us is extends our advertising for free to about probably 1,200 different birders in the area. So we draw from that. We've had as many as 16 people on a walk, and normal attendance is about 10. Now that doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're out tromping around in the woods, that's enough to try to keep track of. The second thing I would talk about is equipment is simple. So many sports today, even if you're playing football or anything like that, you've got to buy so much equipment. All you need to start birding is a pair of binoculars and a book. So the equipment is very simple, it's inexpensive, it's not like buying a new set of golf clubs every year. You buy one pair of binoculars and you're ready to go. It's for everyone. Anyone can bird. You can be in a wheelchair. The parks are designed so that even the road and some of the gravels that we have there, if you're in wheelchairs, you can enjoy the park. A lot of the parks today, I just came from Joyner Park up in Wake Forest. A lot of their trails are blacktop, so they have access there. But it's for everyone. Even if you're handicapped, you can sit in your living room, put a couple feeders outside, and you can bird from there. So it is for everyone. It's also very good for cross-generational. Grandchildren, it's a good way for grandparents to connect with their grandchildren, get them away from those games that they're playing all the time inside, get them outside and do something. So it is cross-generational. It's an all-season activity. I'll turn this around so y'all can see it. It's an all-seasonal activity. The summertime is actually the worst time. Typically in August, which we just had our walk in August, and we had 6 people, I was surprised. There's so many leaves on the trees, and it's hotter than heck in the woods. And the birds are pretty much ready to migrate, and they're molting, and it's just not a good time. But we still had, like I said, we had 6 people, and we had about 25 or 30 species this last time. So that's a lot, and I'll talk about species in another minute. Wintertime is really the best time to bird. There's no leaves on the trees, and you can see them a lot easier. It's cold, but here in North Carolina, it's not too bad. We can appreciate the cooler weather. This week was really good with the cooler weather, and now that the leaves are starting to fall, it'll be much easier. And even with the leaves on the trees, most people don't realize that, especially if you're not a birder, 60% of all identification is done by ear, by hearing, and not by sight. So you have to learn, besides learning the sight, you have to learn the calls of the birds. Birds are everywhere. Most people think that you have to go to the woods to bird, but actually the best places in the park are the soccer fields. To date, and I was going to talk about varieties a little bit, but we had 86 different separate species up until last week. Saturday morning it rained and there were puddles on the new soccer field, which is just dirt right now. And in those puddles was 2 new species that we had never seen in the park before. So they're everywhere, anytime, any place. Even in my backyard, for those who aren't birders, this won't make any sense at all, but even in my backyard, I only have 2 trees now. I came from a very wooded lot, and I only have 2 trees, but last year I got what's called a life species. It's the first time I'd ever seen this bird in my backyard. So they're everywhere, anytime, downtown. They can just be any place, so you just kind of have to keep your eyes open for what's going on there. Lots of varieties. I wanted to talk about varieties just a little bit. Like I mentioned, we have 86, well now actually we have 86 documented separate species. That's a big number, and that's one of the reasons Audubon got attached to us, was they decided that we are now known as the Far East Hotspot. And they send people every walk that we have, which is the second Saturday of the month, every month at 8:30 in the morning. We meet at, well, it used to be the tennis courts, but are gone now. And we walk for about 2 hours. Audubon, again, has called us the hotspot of the East for Wake County. And we are only, as close as we are to Johnston County, there's only one park in Johnston County that has any birding at all, and that's Howell, down south of Smithfield. So we're pretty secluded out here, but we have a lot of opportunities. And we appreciate the people that come on those walks. It's a, I can't even remember. Any time of the day you can bird. Most people think you have to go out in the morning, but you don't have to. It's an all-day activity. I do a lot of afternoon birding, and one of the things that's happened since we've started to get some attention from Audubon, there's a lot of folks that don't come on the walks now, but still come to the park. And they'll come after work or lunch hours and spend some time at the park, so it's very good. I started to talk about the staff. One of the things that they've done for us there is that originally when I started birding there, I was using the Frisbee golf course for my trails. And it worked out pretty well, except when there's guys playing Frisbee golf. And Phil and Jeff and the crew have been gracious enough and have taken time to cut new trails in the park, and we call them our birding trails, and they're awesome. If you've not been to the park, you need to go and see the rock formations. There's some awesome geologic formations in the park. There's a stream that we'll talk about in a minute that we need to see if we can do something with. And so if you haven't been there, it's a worthwhile place to go. The Hugh Moody Nature Trail is an easy walk, and you should walk that. And again, most people think that when you bird, you have to be in the woods. But the best place to bird is the edges. And so where they've cut it in the new soccer fields and things like that, and the row of pine trees that are up the driveway there are really the best places to bird. You see a lot more there. Deep woods, there's not much food there for them, so they don't spend a lot of time there. There's a lot more food in the pine trees and things like that. Element of surprise, I already mentioned that I had an odd bird. I'm what's known as a lister. I keep score. It's kind of like golf for me. I go out, I spend a couple hours, and I want to know how many I can see in a given period of time. Some people are studiers. They want to see what they can find out about birds. And with the Christmas bird count that I mentioned earlier, that information it's done worldwide, and there's counts. I mean, there's hundreds, thousands of counts. And that information is used then to determine habitat loss and environmental changes. And it's been going on for over 100 years, so there's a lot of data involved in that. Photography. If you have young folks that aren't really interested in birding, but maybe photography, this calendar was done by a 16-year-old kid from Wake Forest School. And he's actually leading some of the bird walks now. It's a beautiful calendar. This is something that we're looking for in the park, but we haven't seen yet. So one of the things that's on here says birds are beautiful. If you've not looked at them, take time to do that. There's lots of things to see. 88 species in the park now is a lot. Crabtree Lake, which is a good place to bird, has been there. They've been birding there for years, and they only have 220 species. In the state of North Carolina, we have documented 470 species. 450 of those are found in Wake County. So the only other 20, or approximately 20, that we don't see are things at the coast, some odd things at the coast. And most of those were seen at Falls Lake. The problem with Falls Lake, it's 250 miles of shoreline. Where do you start? The nice thing about our park, it's 120 acres, and you can cover it in a couple hours. And still, typically on a Saturday, a good Saturday, we'll get 30 or 35 species. And that's exciting for a lot of people. That's a lot of species to find in one day. I would just invite you all, if you haven't been on Birdwalk, even though you might think it's crazy, it's not like the old days where people came out and they have a whole different idea of what birders are like. Bring your camera, bring your binoculars, and your book, and spend some time with us on the Birdwalks. That's some highlights. Like I said, this is about an hour presentation I just did in 7 or 8 minutes. So if anyone have any questions about anything?
Anyone have any questions?
Mayor, where would we be able to get the calendar? Is that something that can be ordered? Or
No, this one is actually for this year, and this young man the new one hasn't been published yet, but he is working on one. Nice young man. He's done this for about 4 or 5 years now, and it's an awesome thing.
I want to thank you for providing such a wonderful program for our citizens. We've really been working hard to try to expand our programming so that we offer something for everyone, and this is wonderful. I really, really appreciate it. And I also want to thank you for your enthusiasm about the park. I'm enthusiastic about the park.
The park's awesome.
And so I really appreciate that. And I think it's beautiful out there, and the staff out there, and the nature trails, and I appreciate you bragging on them. I'm very proud of our staff.
They do a great
and
job.
Of our park.
They do a great
Thank
job.
you.
Just a quick follow-up, just 2 things, 2 not really issues. One is, how do we get more local people involved? Over half of the people that come are from through Meetup, which can be from anywhere. So trying to get local folks involved is a real issue. And the other thing is, Jeff and I have both talked to the beavers that live in the park. There's a big beaver dam. If you don't do anything else in the park, come and see the beaver dam. But it broke last year, and it's drained the swamp. That's not politically correct, is it? And I think Jeff found out we're not allowed to fix it. We're not allowed to help the beavers. We've talked to them, they won't come and fix it. So what's happened is that the swamp that was there, the wetlands that were there, are gone. And so we've lost 10 or 12 species that normally are there. One of the Eagle Scouts built a platform in the park
Yeah.
a couple 3 years ago. And right there is where it's dry now and there's not much seen. So I don't know if there's anything that we can really do, but we'll sure try to do it. And I will say, twice, with the chief's permission, I went to the park after 9, 10 o'clock at night and walked the trails in the dark. It's dark at night.
It's dark out there.
It's dark at night. And the only thing that we got was a barred owl, so there wasn't a lot of night activity there, but there's a lot of good things there. Thank you very much. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Can we maybe start making a reminder on our social media about this? We can all share.
Absolutely.
For the bird walks. So a lot of people may not know about that. All right. Item number 5, going to recognize Officer Linward Morgan Hanks Jr. for earning his advanced law enforcement certificate.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the board. I'm really pleased to come before you all tonight to let you know about Officer Linwood Morgan Hanks Jr. having received his advanced certificate from the North Carolina Criminal Justice Education Training and Standards Commission. On Friday, August 18th of this year, the commission met and awarded Lynn, as we know him, his advanced law enforcement certificate. It's a prestigious award. It's presented by the commission to recognize the competence of law enforcement officers, to foster interest in college education and professional law enforcement training programs, and to attract highly qualified persons to the law enforcement field. Eligibility for the award is based on a combination of formal education, law enforcement-related training beyond state mandates, and years of full-time experience. It typically takes anywhere from 6 to 12 years to achieve this award for the average officer. As you all may know, Lynn is a native of Vance County, and upon graduating high school, he entered the U.S. Army, where he served approximately 4 years and specialized as combat medic. Upon honorable discharge from the Army, Lynn joined the United States Postal Service and served in the Raleigh area for about 7 years. A calling to continue to serve people, he then entered the basic law enforcement training at Nash Community College while working as a postal carrier and completed that training in 2010. Upon completing that training, he was hired as an auxiliary officer by the Vance County Sheriff's Office and then moved into a full-time role in 2011 with the Vance County Sheriff's Office. He worked as a patrol deputy and ultimately as an investigator assigned to narcotics prior to joining us here as a patrol officer with the Wendell Police Department on November 3rd, 2014. Lynn has continued his formal education while employed as a law enforcement officer. He attended Columbia and Southern University and graduated with an Associate of Applied Science in Criminal Justice in March 2013 and a Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice Administration in September of 2014. Additionally, he's completed numerous training courses specific to his law enforcement duties and has begun work on his master's degree. Receipt of the Advanced Law Enforcement Certificate is a symbol of Linwood's dedication and hard work to the law enforcement profession and is a credit not only to Linwood but to the communities he serves. Lynn is actually the 11th of 17 officers with the Wendell Police Department to have received this award. We're really proud of him. We appreciate everything he does here for the town. He's a man of few words, folks.
Oh, come on.
Give him one or two.
When I first started, I just knew I had to keep working hard. I'm a type of guy, I just want to keep bettering myself. So I'm always trying to find something to do. And whenever I find something to train on, I keep going. So.
Well, congratulations. We're very happy to have you here in Wendell.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 6 is a public hearing to consider a financial institution for an equipment and vehicles loan for a leaf truck, 5 police cars, bucket truck, and 2 pickup trucks. Mr. Kay.
Hey, Madam Mayor, members of the board, as the mayor stated, in the 2017-2018 budget, the board approved to enter into a loan to fund 5 police vehicles, 1 leaf machine, a used bucket truck, as well as 2 utility trucks in the Public Works Department. So I guess, Mayor, if you need to open up the public hearing, we can do so and then take a vote after.
All right. Public hearing is now open. Does anybody have any questions today for Mr. Kay? Would anyone like to speak for, against, or regarding the? All right. Public hearing is now closed. What's y'all's pleasure, gentlemen?
Mayor, it was bid out, just to kind of state that we did have 3 bidders to participate, 3 banks. KS Bank was the apparent lowest bidder at 1.74%. So we were asking that the board approve the loan with KS Bank in the amount of not to exceed $507,000.
Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve I guess the acceptance loan, but
The bid.
the bid from KS Bank, thank you, for equipment and vehicles loan.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the bid from KS Bank for the equipment and vehicle loans. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor? All right. Item number 7 is a discussion of the Town of Wendell professional and career development for the Public Works Department.
Madam
It's
Mayor.
you again?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Madam Mayor, members of the board, I want to start out by thanking the committee that was put together to do this study. Malia Edwards, she's our HR specialist. She helped do a lot of research and gather data for us that we could use to compare with other local jurisdictions in our area. Chief Carter, he provided a lot of insight and knowledge, specifically on some of the career incentive programs that we put together, as well as some of the job descriptions. Alton Bryant, he actually put together all the details and organized everything so we would have the materials at each meeting. And of course, our town manager, Teresa Piner, she was always there to keep us on target and make sure we were meeting our goals. As stated, when we did the study, we essentially looked at some of our local area municipalities, and we kind of used that to say we went to market. So we kind of compared ourselves to other jurisdictions. And as we did that, we realized that we sort of needed to add a layer in our Public Works Department. And that layer, we equate that to be the Public Works Specialist 2 position. So we created a job description for that position, which is in your agenda packet that you have tonight. And then from there, we developed a career incentive program that can guide and help nurture our Public Works Department employees to better themselves in training, education, to develop their career. And so, Mayor, what we'd like to do is ask the board to adopt that new position with the job description as well as the career incentive program that we developed for the Public Works Department.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Kay?
Mr. Kay?
Yes, sir.
Just before we had this new position here open up, was it just a basic public works specialist and then a senior, or what were the tiers prior to this?
We had 3 levels, essentially. We had the Public Works Specialist, we had the Senior Public Works position, and then we had the Crew Leader. So we only had 3 positions, and so we felt like we need to expand our positions and add a layer in there to give us 4 layers, if you will. So the Public Works Specialist 1, now Public Works Specialist 2, then you can advance to a Senior Public Works Specialist before you become essentially a supervisor, which is our crew leader.
Okay.
So it does add a layer, yes, sir.
And the program, or I guess the career development opportunity, I guess the program you guys kind of have developed, is this designed to bring people from that
basic, or that specialist 1 and specialist 2, is that kind of so they can see this track of
Yes, sir.
elevation, promotion?
Yes, sir, through training, and as well as years of service. So the longer we want to promote, I think the town does a really good job of recruiting employees. We want to retain these employees, and we think that through this career incentive program, we were able to, retain these employees and grow them in their career. So they're not just, coming here and leaving. They're coming here, they're getting trained, they're getting additional education, and by doing so, we're promoting them and giving them the opportunity to earn extra pay.
Well, it gives them challenges, that they have additional challenges they can meet over the course of their careers, and it also puts their, where they are as far as their career advancement in their hands.
Yes, ma'am.
They can go out and get some additional training and things, and that makes them eligible for some promotions and things, and, this is something that I think it's my understanding, we're gonna be looking at. I would like to, a little bit townwide, but I think definitely starting with the Public Works, it was something that we needed to do, there. And I agree, for recruitment but primarily for retention of employees.
Yes, ma'am.
So, does anyone have any other questions? Mr. Joyner?
Mr. Gay or Mr. Bryant may know the answer better. How many current public works specialists, how much movement do we expect to see with the implementation of this program straight out of the gate? How many public works specialists, 1, are going to be 2s?
I think that's our next step, is we're trying to put our employees where they belong based on the career incentive program that we have. And from there, then we can guide them on how to get to that next level. So that's kind of where we are now, is where are we going to, I guess, for lack of a better word, slot them in based on their current status, where they would using this program, and then we can help guide them on getting to the next step.
Do you know if there's anyone that would be immediately impacted, or do you know that?
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be, we've got 7 total employees, including
Yeah.
Mr. Alton and
Yeah, okay.
our superintendent. So that leaves 5. So of those 5, I would anticipate there could be, 2 or 3, the majority.
And then the
could be
others will
affected.
know,
The others will know.
I can do this and this. or
Correct.
This much time has to pass, or what have you, then they would be advancing as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
It does, and it leads me to my second. 1, I was your biggest critic on this when we started, so I'm going to be your biggest praise now. What you guys put together is great. You added a whole level. You came up with not only the levels of pay, but also the levels of advancement and how that occurs. I guess I have 2 questions to follow that. 1, we know that a lot of these guys deserve that pay bump. My question is, 1, by setting this up, is everyone now going to be a public works specialist too? And are we going to be sitting in the exact same situation, but at a higher pay level? I understand and I will vote for this because we're going to be paying these employees what they're deserved. But are we creating create a position instead of, we're creating a position in the middle, everyone moves up, now no one's in this position. Do you guys feel like the structure is there? And the second part is, I'll go as far as saying I think that we had conversations even in closed session about this issue. It rose to that level with us. Does this address, because it's not a big financial, and I'd be the first one to say this is a big financial impact, we can't do it. This isn't a huge financial impact. Does this address the problem?
To answer your first question, Commissioner Jordan, I think that we're going to have employees in different levels. So not everyone will be at the same 2 positions. So I think there will be a little bit of a variation. And with that being said, there will be different monetary values based. Some will see some impact. Some may not, because they may already be within the range. And that was something that we've discussed and talked about, just because some have been here longer. Their salaries are already where they are. So some may be impact, some may not. But to answer your question, there will be more than the one layer. There'll be multiple layers now.
Also, we're looking for additional employees there.
Yes,
Who
ma'am.
would be hired with this potential
To grow. Yes,
to grow as well.
yes, ma'am.
That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
All right, I think we're good. So we need a motion to approve the,
I'll make a motion to approve to adopt the revised assignments to the classes of grades proposed in the Public Works Department.
so we have a motion to adopt, can you say your motion again?
Sure, I make a motion to adopt the addition of Public Works Specialist 2
Okay.
position within the position classification plan.
Thank you.
Probably a little better.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we have a motion to adopt the addition of a Public Works Specialist 2 within the position and classification plan. Is there any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
All right.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Item number 8 is a discussion of a vacancy on the tree board.
Madam Mayor, members of the board, we do have a position that has become vacant on the tree board. Ms. Joy Hicks has submitted her letter of resignation, and we would like to move forward with looking at an application that has been received, and the board may take action. During the Spring Into the Arts Walk reception, Ms. Marriott Sheldon expressed an interest in serving on the tree board. Her application was received on Monday, August 21st, and is presented before you in your information this evening. You would see on there, and some may ask her location. The tree board does not have a residency requirement, so I wanted to make sure that you saw that as well, because she does live outside of town.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Piner?
Is Ms. Sheldon here tonight?
No, she's not here.
Did we advertise this?
No, it was not advertised. It was when the position came open and she had expressed interest, she filled out an application, but it has not been advertised.
Due to the last appointment process, I've got concerns about a couple things. One, and I am certain that Michelle will do great, and I have no doubt that she may likely be the person that serves on this board. But we are just over 30 days since Ms. Hicks resigned. Now just over 30 days, we have a replacement, and that's great. This is anything to anybody. This is open government. We need to advertise the position. We need to let anyone that may be interested apply for it. We need to review those applications and have a chance to speak, at least speak to them. That's, like I said, I appreciate staff finding an answer. The other piece is her application was submitted on the 21st. It's now the 28th, so I'm not necessarily sure how, without us adding it to the agenda, it got put on the agenda with the 10-day rule. I just would like us to move this to a further date so we can fully advertise it. And like I said, I have no problem with her serving on the board, and understand that we have some boards that are harder to fill than others, but I feel like we should do the public the due diligence of advertising the position and letting them apply.
All right, let's advertise it, and we'll, same manner and fashion that we've done previously.
Okay. That'll work.
We'll come back to it. All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 9 is a discussion of the Wake County Fire Commission appointment. Ms. Piner?
Madam Mayor, members of the board, this October, the term of Mr. Jones, the town's representative on the Wake County Fire Commission, will expire. On December of 1998, the Wendell Town Board of Commissioners adopted a resolution to join the Wake County Fire Services Tax District. It became effective in 1999. Additionally, at the December 1998 meeting, the town board unanimously recommended Commissioner Buddy Scarborough as the town's representative. The Wake County Board formally appointed Commissioner Scarborough in June of '99. The first meeting was held in October of that year, with his term expiring in 2000. Mr. Scarborough represented the Wake County Board of Commissioners until 2003, and in December, at that time, Mr. Jones, he was appointed to the Wake County Fire Commission. Members and composition of the Wake County Fire Commission includes Wake County Board of Commissioners member, representatives of Fire Service Planning and Service Regions, 4 members, President of Wake County Firefighters Association 1, public consumers, representatives of municipalities participating in Fire Protection Service District, county staff are non-voting. The Wendell Town Board of Commissioners requested to bring the nominations before you this evening in anticipation of the vote on September the 11th. In turn, the nominations will be sent to the clerk of the board for Wake County Commissioners for inclusion in the upcoming agenda, where they will make the final appointment during a regular board meeting. That is the information that I have for you this evening. Mr. Jones is here if you have any questions. Again, we're looking to schedule this for action on September 11th.
Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Farmer?
It's fine. We check with Wake County to make sure that us doing that on September 11th fits with their timeline.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I don't have any questions, Madam Mayor. I had a comment.
Okay.
Speaking as the board liaison to the fire board, it was discussed at length at our last 2 fire board meetings about this position. And as Chief Staples pointed out, they're in the middle of a pretty big project that I think we're getting ready to talk about. And the fire board has requested that they maintain Mr. Jones on the commission throughout that process.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? All right. Item number 10 is an update on co-locating within the proposed Wake County Public Safety Facility.
Madam Mayor, members of the board, as we are preparing to move forward with the request to participate with Wake County on the new EMS fire police facility to be constructed on Wendell Falls Parkway, we've asked for additional information. What you have is information that was recently received from Wake County in regard to some of the questions that you had. I anticipate that from this information there will be more questions. They have also asked that a decision by this board be made no later than September 15th. With that being said, I would recommend placing it on the September 11th agenda. When we took a look at this, again, this information was just recently received. The numbers that we had at the last board meeting were anticipating the cost to the town of approximately $927,000. Based upon their they have gone back and taken a look at this. They've reduced the percentage of the police station that they feel the town would be responsible for, and they have the estimated total at this time at $595,000, down from the $927,000. The timeline that you have is currently scheduling to close on the property in the next month or 2. Project design, bid documentation preparation, permitting and bidding, construction in FY 2019, and in the summer of 2019, completion and grand opening. Responses to some of the questions that we had regarding the police station is, ownership and utilities and how these things would be assessed and addressed. One of the questions that we had, once the town's portion is paid to Wake County, would the space belong to the town? Wendell indefinitely, how does that work since the county actually owns the land underneath? And they did respond that the county would hold the deed, but the town's portion will be owned by the town. The police component is self-contained in the northwest corner of the building. If expansions were to occur for the other entities, that expansion would not occur where the police station is planned. So it would be planned in other areas, and that we would not be, or the town would not be bumped out of that facility. If the property were sold, will the town receive any form of payback? Again, this is extremely unlikely, but if it did occur, the town would receive payback, payment back for its percentage of ownership, including any inflation value that would be realized as a result of the sale. Utility costs, they show that as being based upon the Wendell using 8.5% of the building. They said that it would be split accordingly to the percentages of the building. Again, this would be an area that I would have questions. Only reason being, and it may be quite fair, but the other entities are living there in the facility, and we would just want to look at that a little closer. Again, it may not be a problem, but just would try to understand their usage as a result of living at the facility. And then how our maintenance costs to be addressed to include ongoing routine emergency events. The cost is allocated to the entity where the repairs are needed. If it is a system-wide repair, routine maintenance, or scheduled life cycle replacement, those costs will be allocated according to the percentage share of cost. Water financing options. This has been a question that we had in the beginning. We did hear there were some possibilities of financing through Wake County. Then felt that we were being informed that would not be the case, but from the information here, does sound like the county would be willing and interested in participating and assisting in financing of the facility, or the town's portion of that facility. Again, timeline for payment, long-term payments are an option. And again, one of my questions would be to try to nail that down a little bit in between now and September 11th. What does that mean? And if one of the questions was, if financing options were not available, is there an option to lease? And I'm here, again, I think we need to do a little more digging on this. If a lease agreement were made in lieu of cost sharing of the construction, the terms of the lease would include a minimum term so that the county could recoup the construction cost. Since the lease is not a purchase, then there would be no ownership stake by the town, and at the end of the term, the town would vacate or sign another lease. So again, I think we've got some answers to our questions. We may have some additional ones in addition to. I would like to see if the board has additional questions that I could take back to county staff this week.
I have a question. How did our costs go down so much?
It was based upon the percentage. When they went back and calculated the percentage and of open space or shared areas, it did bring our percentage of use of the facility down.
So we're down to 9% now from 14.
Yes, ma'am.
What is our square footage though?
It's the square footage is the same, the 1509.
So the first number they gave us, 927,000, and then they recalculate it, and it brings it down $350,000.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
just have to say something. This is truly miraculous that the same amount of square footage has gone from $927,000 to $595,000.
And although I have not had a chance to speak with them, I think the overall cost for the facility stayed the same, but the percentage of the town is what dropped. We asked them to look at that.
It can be as miraculous as we want it to be, but $600,000 for 1,500 square feet of space is still $400
Oh,
a
I'm
square
completely
foot.
there with you. I'm just amazed how all of a sudden, when we were a squeaky wheel, it went down $300,000.
Madam Mayor, remember the question I had at last meeting, the difference between the cost of us to build it, or for them to build this project with us versus the cost to build the project without us?
Right.
I think it's roughly $300,000 and some odd thousand. That's just my best guess on how I can't find another way that you do the same percentage by the same square foot, come up with that number. It's still a very expensive building. However, we're moving in the right direction, and I think staff is on point with the questions they have listed out here. So I would encourage staff to, while the effort may not bear fruit, and while the math may be more than confusing, continue working, maybe resubmit the same questions and see if it cuts in half again.
So it's my understanding you're gathering some additional information that you're going to get back to us in the next little bit.
Yes, ma'am. Based upon the information that we've received, I have a few more questions, and I'd like to talk with staff at the county in more depth.
All right, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Ms. Piner?
Ms. Piner, in hoping that the numbers continue to fall, and I know that you've indicated here, looking at the county financing, but since we're going to be under a time crunch,
Yeah.
It may be prudent to look at all financing options at that point. And I think that may prove difficult because we don't own, it's an asset that we can't sell, but just so we have the most information possible.
We are running some rough numbers of if we went out to the open market of what some numbers may look like. Also, we have been looking at numbers as well as if we did lease space in new facilities and what kind of per square foot that would be and what kind of costs we may have. So they are very rough numbers at this point, and we will try to do the best that we can with the information that we have in the next week.
I think what he's saying is we just need as much as we can by our September 11th meeting.
Absolutely.
The end of our time,
So there would be no point in us
yeah.
wanting to do it at that point if we don't have financing, if y'all are into that time crunch. Or at
So
least
get
that's
everything you can together. All right. Item number 11, discussion of policy for the weather camera.
Ms. Hughes is going to discuss that with you.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners. At the last meeting, we discussed the weather camera policy. With the new installation of the weather camera located on Main Street, the need for a weather camera policy was discussed at the town board meeting on August 12th. Most policies reviewed were related to surveillance and security monitoring camera and do not apply to the proposed use of the camera for the town of Wendell. A draft policy is in your packet. The town attorney and State Department of Archives will be consulted before requesting adoption. I'll be happy to take questions.
Do other towns that have weather cameras have policies for their weather cameras?
No, they do not. I've asked several. Nightdale was our closest town that has a weather camera like this, and they do not.
Okay.
Mayor, I believe that some of the reason for that may be that it is open to the public at any time, and as we have seen even on our social media, where the public is able to at any time take snapshots or
Right.
prints of that, and that it is open. However, it's not that we shouldn't have a policy, but it's very difficult to find one since it is open to the public at any time.
It's a live feed and open at any time.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Ms. Hughes?
Are we currently recording anything on that camera?
The only thing we're recording is for the ability to take promotional pictures, like if we have a parade or an event, we want to go back and capture some of that to have available for promotional.
So if I asked you tonight, and this isn't directed at you, but if I asked staff tonight, can you show me what happened at 12 o'clock today?
Yes, 12 o'clock today, yes. I'm limited based on what I have available to record, and I don't have a big SD card in there, so it depends. If it records a whole lot, we may get just a day or two. But if we don't record a whole lot and there's not a lot of motion, which that's not true because Wendell is hopping, so we won't get much, so.
So it records when there's movement?
Right, it does
isn't just
motion.
running all the time?
It is running all the time, and it is viewable all the
but it's
time, but
recording-
it is only recording when we have a motion.
Right, okay.
And then you left the use of spot blank on this form. Is this something you guys are still
Yeah,
working on the
you,
kinks of, or is
you,
this-
direction from the board is requested on what you would like to see. I am limited. I think the longest that I would dare say that we could record would be a week, 7 days. You can put a bigger SD card in there and record longer, but I don't have that right now. It is your direction, what you would like to see.
we have the smallest one in there we can have?
No, we don't. I was afraid that if we had like a parade or a big event, or we were on a long weekend, we
might
wouldn't be
not
able to
get
get
it
it
all.
right.
Okay.
So we have a middle.
Okay.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna give some feedback since this is gonna go other places before it comes back to us. The proposed policy, the oversight committee is, while perfectly reasonable to have those 3 individuals and/or their designees on it. I was raised a Southern Baptist, so I understand our immediate desire is to form a committee, but that may not always be necessary too. If the committee to oversee the government is the government, we have a problem with the committee. So I'd like to see some sort of, if we're going to have a committee, let's have others included in that. The other piece was, there's a line in there that says, at the discretion of the Oversight Committee, the feed may be provided to media and other outlets as authorized. Is that as authorized by the committee?
Is that as authorized by you guys? What right now they have access to is the weather portion, so that they can air it on TV. And so they have access to it. WRL currently has access, and we have a couple more that we're talking to about getting access and being able to view on their TV station for us to promote Wendell. And so it is up to you guys if you would like to see that or not.
I think the last one is, for me at least, is nothing in this policy shall prohibit the use of the video recorded through cameras by law enforcement as provided by state and federal law. While state and federal law is certainly applicable in this case, it would be my desire to see, this is a weather camera, it's a town promotion camera. If you want to go on and take a snapshot and say this is downtown Wendell right now, or if you want to link to the live feed, that's perfectly fine. If for whatever reason the chief just loves the live feed enough that he's sitting somewhere looking at it and he sees a crime occur, I think he has a statutory obligation to do something about that. That said, I don't think we have a statutory obligation to use this, and if law enforcement, and I say this with a precursor that in my routine daily life I represent law enforcement, if law enforcement wants access to this service, they need a warrant. They need something.
Retain what has been stored and retained.
If we are reaching in the past, if we are going in the past and accessing, because I as a citizen can go on the website and I can view it, and I understand that, and that's great, and I would never do anything to Commissioner Boyette's precious weather camera and wonderful idea for Wendell. That said, the concept of us just keeping data that, but for no other reason that we were trying to look at the weather, someone is accused of a crime that they otherwise would not be accused of, I think that that's evidence, and I think that we need to have a procedure in place. And that was the procedure I was talking about. If law enforcement wants to use this camera in the course of an investigation from a time previous to current, they need a warrant or whatever the courts deem necessary for that. And there may be state statute on that. I'm not aware of it, but we're in a gray area here, and I'd like to make sure we have our P's and Q's crossed on the legal component of it. And I'd also like to ensure people in Wendell that this is for the weather.
Yep.
And pictures at the parade.
So would you like for us to take that portion out?
I am by no means a public records expert nor a criminal investigations expert. What I can tell you is there was a plethora of good conversation based on the fact that there was a camera that's operated and monitored and recorded and kept by the government that the public wasn't aware of. Sure, they are in a place, and I can see Chief Space back there, they have no expectation of privacy. There's no expectation of privacy. That's right. but they also have no expectation that the town of Wendell would take their tax dollars. When they see a police car, there's an expectation that's a police car, and if you do something stupid, you're gonna get arrested. Walking down the street, there's no, I understand the legal jargon there. All I'm asking is, we approved a weather camera, we want a weather camera, let's have a weather camera. And if we're gonna store it, I certainly want law enforcement to be able to use it when needed. But I want law enforcement to have a set of procedures so citizens can be aware of how we use that camera. And now if Mr. White wants to put a camera on top of his building and record it and give it to the chief every single day, that's purely in his prerogative. But Mr. White's a private business and we're the government, and we need to be real careful about that Fourth Amendment because it protects the rest of them.
If we weren't retaining it, even if it was just for an hour, it would be different, but the retention just for that little bit of time is what is troublesome to me, and that kind of takes it from being a weather camera to another kind of camera. So it's kind of like it's a hybrid to me a little bit, so, I agree with Commissioner Joyner. I think we need to have a process, and I think you should have to have a warrant, just like any other, because it is the government. I think we need to be above board. Can we go back to the other, you mentioned the other stations.
Yes.
Can you just give me a real quick update, ABC 11 and anyone else? Because I want everyone to have it.
ABC 11,
wants it.
I've talked to, and they're very excited about having it on board. We have not technically gotten them connected yet. Everybody has a different system that we have to tie into.
Right.
And so the camera that we have is a little bit different, happened to be the exact one WRL system was using. It popped right in, populated, they didn't have any problems.
Okay.
ABC 11 uses a different system. WNCN is another one that I have contacted, and we're working with them. I got an email from them a couple of days ago that said, hey, well, I might have gotten it fixed. He was trying to get it connected, and so I haven't heard from him yet whether he's able to see it, view it, or have access to it other than just a stream. The only one that has access to be able to move the camera and to air things and record it, that's the other reason why we needed recording, is they need to be able to record a short snippet
So they can then
so they
show
can
it
air
in
that
minutes.
short snippet and not be exposed on the air in case somebody comes streaking down the road. Not that we would, but
Oh,
they-
y'all behave out there in front
Right.
of the weather camera, please. All right.
My-
Okay.
My only, my concern, I have the same concerns as Commissioner Joyner brought up. But I want to get back to the amount of storage that we're using and the line where it says, records shall be retained for a blank number of days. Well, if we put in there 1, 2, 7, and then the amount of storage that we have does not account for that, then I foresee us running up, if we are subpoenaed, or if a warrant is issued for that data, and they
Don't
say, well,
have
you
it.
say that you shall keep it, for 7 days, so.
we can change that to say no fewer than, or no more than 7 days. And it wouldn't be up to 7 days, it would be no more than 7 days.
I like that language better.
Yes.
But as it states now, it says records shall be retained for blank days.
Yeah.
So and it's in a couple of spots too, so just want to make sure that that's taken care of.
Good point. Okay. Anybody else? Anything else? Okay. All right. Get back to us with those changes then. Okay. Thank you. Item number 11 is update on board committees by town board members. Let's see, we'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Lutz, the Triangle J Board of Delegates.
Yes, I had attended the Triangle J Board of Delegates meeting last Wednesday evening. At this time, we accepted in 4 new towns into our region. We also discussed the upcoming regional summit that's occurring in Clayton in September. And just one thing I want to say about this, we had to vote on awards as a group, and there were 4 different awards we voted on, and it was great. I was really proud to sit there and see that in every one of these awards, there was somebody from Wendell who had been nominated. We had Ms. Goggins, we had Mayor Gregg, we had Mr. Paul White, we had somebody nominated for each one of these awards, and we were the only town, and there was one we weren't, but we were by far that had the best representation of anywhere in the area. And so I felt kind of proud there, as kind of the quiet guy from Wendell, who's not the big county or big city, the other ones are, to have this much representation. So that was really good to see. And so, of course, it made my voting much easier as well, too. So, that was all.
Thank you for that. I'm the other one. I attended Campo, I believe, last week, and we held 2 public hearings. The first on the fiscal year 2019 LAP programs, the second on the prioritization of the 5.0 modal candidate project lists. We also discussed this is how far out they plan, the 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan update. So that was interesting. It's kind of surreal to sit there and look in the future and know that you won't be here for that probably. But anyhow, got to plan ahead, I guess. But that's what we did at Campo. Item number 13, Commissioners' Reports. We'll start with Commissioner Carroll tonight.
No comment.
Mayor Pro Tem Lutz.
Just one thing just to add, a reminder on September the 9th, the Wendell Methodist Church will be having their Community Day. We'll have a silent auction. There'll be fish plates for sale, so if anybody needs any tickets, there's usually out from the PD selling them in the morning, so.
Yeah, I believe one of our former commissioners has been sitting out there, loitering out there selling tickets. Commissioner Coyette,
No comments tonight,
Commissioner Joyner.
A couple comments. One, I had the opportunity, one, to buy some tickets from in front of Aubrey's for the Wendell Methodist Day. So jump in. That's how I'm going to fund my campaign. Two, I wanted to discuss the town did a great job this weekend honoring our local Little League All-Stars that came back and did such a good job. It was really cool to see all of them out there in the park, running around. They wanted absolutely nothing to do with the formal ceremony. They wanted to run around and be with their friends, and that's really good to see. And it was good to see a good mixture of folks out there having fun. Also wanted to highlight, this is kind of a different thing for me, but some of you may notice if you see me around town, I generally have a suit on. Once our dry cleaner here left, there was no place for me to take my suits, so I've been taking them here, there, and everywhere. The other fun fact is if I'm wearing a suit, then Larry Harvey is the guy that tailored it right there at Larry's Tailor Shop. He tailors everything for me. Larry saw a void in town. Larry never came to town hall. I never got a phone call from him saying, you guys got to get us a tailor, or you guys got to get us a dry cleaner. I don't know that he went to the chamber. I don't know that he went to anyone. But the gentleman from Brothers Cleaners contacted me and said, hey, look, we're going to be providing this service. You take your clothes to Larry. We'll take them. We'll clean them. We'll bring them back to Larry. And actually went a step further. I took my clothes to Larry last week for the first time. My clothes went to Raleigh. I got a phone call that said, hey, we're going to drop these off at your door. We're going to give you a bag. But because Larry's our anchor there, we're now going to provide this service in your town. Now, so initially it made sense because Larry would get foot traffic, right? And I'm sure he will. But that wasn't Larry's interest. Larry's interest was there's a service that's not currently being provided in town, and I have the resources to lure that service because of the business I run into town, and I want to do that. And when I mentioned it to Larry the other day when I was taking him some suits to get tailored, he said, well, we needed it. Why wouldn't I? It's kind of similar to my conversation about 3rd Street at our last meeting. These are the people that are leading in town, and they're not doing it by asking someone else to do it. They're stepping up and they're doing it, and I can't thank Larry any more than I thanked Ed Morrell last time. But this is how the town grows, and this is how we provide more services. The last piece that I know no one knew, or no one doubted I was going to let alone is, and Johnny Whitfield would be jumping up and down right now because when we got the bridge funding, the title of the article was All You Have to Do Is Ask. We literally asked the county, are you sure you're right about your numbers? We're not sure that this is working right. And by my quick math, it's a 35% decrease. That's 35%. That's not a rounding error. And it's still a lot of money. And I'm sure Commissioner Carroll would tell you that they could still get a better deal from a different contractor. But that's a lot of money. And we have to be just as diligent with the money that we don't spend as the money that we do spend. And I think that while we continue to pursue this, the glaring numbers that continue to come back continue to concern me. Our staff is on their P's and Q's when it comes to our budget, and while I'm happy to see the price reduced, if you can cut 33% off and still have the exact same thing you had before, you are probably overpriced by at least 33%. So with that, I will end my comments, Madam Mayor.
Real quickly, I wanted to take an opportunity to congratulate and thank all of our softball and baseball all-stars and the parents and our coaches. A lot of our boys and girls really played hard. They represented Wendell really beautifully. At the various tournaments, my husband and I drug him all over, and we went to several games, and they all were so appreciative that we were there, and they thought it was really cool to have some fans. I really appreciate the coaches as well and the parents. These aren't small undertakings, and all of y'all on the board have a lot younger children, and you'll see that when you start hauling them all over everywhere to go to things, it's a big undertaking, and it's a big undertaking for coaching. And I just really appreciate how well Wendell looks out in the world, and it means a lot to me. I want to thank him for that. Also, I wanted to let you know that I think Mr. Pulaski has stepped out, but the trick-or-treat trail applications are being taken now. This is a great event starting October 27th at 5 p.m. I would encourage you to get your business and come out there and set up. The trick-or-treat trail has been nominated by the North Carolina Parks and Recreation or Recreation and Parks Association for the most innovative award program, and the most innovative program award in the state. So I'm real proud of our Parks and Rec folks. Again, I said that earlier. This is just a idea that some of them put together. I think it was Jeff, and it's been a great idea. It's great for the businesses. It really costs the town and resources a minimal amount. It's mostly man hours, and it's a great, great event. A lot of fun, gets bigger every year. So I encourage you, and if you don't have a business you want to set up out there and do candy and business cards and so forth, bring your kids and trick or treat, because it's a lot of fun. And I'll be out there, and a lot of these fellows up here I'm sure will be out there with me too, and it's a lot of fun. So, okay, so I have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We're adjourned.